Melvin. I think the next guest is here. I can hang tight for a little bit.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So yes, our next guest is here. Her name is Ebony Nard. And she might be, I think she's at work, so we do want to be very respectful of her time. And we just want to open up the floor to you, Ebony, and just let you know that this is a classroom full of master level social workers. We Most of them will be done within the next year. They'll have a degree. Some of them will go off and be therapists and things like that. But we want to open the floor up to you and just have you tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, what you do, and then go ahead and feel free to share with us as much of your trauma story as you possibly can,
Okay.
as you feel led to.
Okay. Thank you everyone for welcoming me. I see all the welcomes down there. And thank you, Mr. McDowell, for inviting me on. It's truly an honor to be with you guys today. Well, I am Ebony Nard. I am a married woman to James Nard. And I am also a supervisor at Best Way Rental. And so I just share a little bit of my history, and I might have to get on out your way.
Okay.
Okay.
Totally fine.
So I come from a background where I will have to start where when I was younger. My father was very abusive, and I'm trying not to bash him, but at the same time, he was very abusive with his words. And sometimes he would so I come from a household where I'm the only girl, and then there's two boys, my two brothers, and my dad was sometimes he filled up with so much anger and rage, and he's dealing with his own trauma, but his trauma began to reflect on us, on his children. And sometimes, I remember just walking into the room, and he would kick us in our butt and would say, "You fat mutt." And I don't know, Mr. Melvin, if I could say this, but I'm just being transparent.
This is your time. Go for it.
He would say, "You big belly bastard," you know? And so growing up into that kind of environment, it's traumatizing. It's traumatizing, especially I could speak from a female point of view, the little girl that needed her father's validation, her father's love, her father's push, her father's protection. And so I grew up saying, okay, all of my past relationships was destroyed because that broken little girl never got the support from her father that she really needed. So every man that came into my life, now I'm a teen. I gotta keep going, y'all. Now I'm a teen. And now that broken little girl is in this teen body. The 5-year-old girl is in this teen body. The 7-year-old girl that was molested when her parents got divorced, I had to get sent to my mother's molester house. I got sent to my mother's molester house to live there for a couple of years. The molester didn't molest me, but my cousins did. So now I have trauma on top of trauma. No help, but trauma on top of trauma. So now I'm an adult. I find myself in the streets. I'm doing drugs. I'm selling drugs. All because this broken little girl never got the attention, the validation, the love that she really desired from the one person. And I know that your father gives you your identity. Your father is the first person to tell you, "I love you. You're beautiful. I adore you. You're more than enough. You're worthy. You can do it. You're bright." But my father told me I was retarded. My father told me, "You go into the disability office and you play dumb. When you get in there, this is how we're going to make checks. This is what I need you to play dumb. And if you don't, I'm gonna beat you. So I'm getting into these doctor's offices. So now I'm no longer his Dow baby, because that's the name that he gave me. I'm now this retarded mental patient. And so now I have to play this role, and then the role, as I got older, it began to become me. So now in my mind, my daddy told me I was retarded. In my mind, my daddy told me, you can't tell these folks that we're doing this, that we're doing that, because you slow. You can't do that. So now that I'm an adult in my life, I'm still saying, my dad's gone. He's dead. He's 6 feet under. But that little girl in me still say, Eb, you can't do that. You can't do that. Daddy's gone, but his words is still alive in my mind. His words is still alive in my spirit. His words is still alive. It becomes you. His words became me. And now as an adult, I went to go see the therapist. They put me on the medications. I still can hear his voice. I still can hear the butt whoopings. I still can hear the kick. I can still hear the big belly bastard. I can still hear the cries. And now I'm a whole supervisor. In my office yesterday, I was just crying. Mr. Melvin, I was crying. He's not here, but I still can hear the words. And I'm going to go on to this part. The club became my second home. I didn't want to go home no more, where mama and daddy was. I have a good mother. She's still here. I thank God she's still here. She tried to do what she could, but she tried to do what she could, but at the same time, I still needed more of the mother, if that makes sense. So the club became my home. Drinking, smoking weed became my home. It became a part of me. It was like I was wrapped up in it as a blanket. And I remember that one time I got so drunk at the club, I woke up on somebody's floor and I found out that over 6 men had their way with me. One did apologize. And the other molester was actually at my dad's funeral. And he bent over to me and he grabbed my hands and he said, Ebony, I'm sorry. And that's the first time he ever apologized. The first time he ever apologized. But the other ones didn't. They went on to still living their best life. But I'm still traumatized by some of those things that happened to me. I'm going to move on to this. So now I'm married. I don't know y'all faith, and I ain't trying to put my faith on nobody, but I love me some Jesus. He's like the only thing that's keeping me coping. And he sent me a man that I love dearly, that loves me. But when he met me, Melvin, he thought he met a woman, but he met that broken little girl. So now I'm going from this broken little girl to now trying to be somebody's wife. I wasn't ready. So now he's showing me love. He's telling me I'm a queen. I'm like, what? Where? My daddy, he's like this. He's pumped up. I'm talking my biological father. He didn't play no mess. So now I have me a good man. He's a sweethearted person, that was foreign to me. That's like speaking Chinese. I don't know what you're saying. If you're not beating me, if you're not spitting on me, if you're not kicking me downstairs, if you're not telling me I'm ugly, if you're not telling me I'm fat, you don't love me. My trauma became my identity. My trauma, I was no longer Ebony. I was no longer Dow Baby. I was the trauma. My name was Trauma. Ugly, fat. I was with a man. I was with a man for 4 years. He beat me to where I literally almost slipped into a coma. When I woke up, my eyes was big. He beat me so bad, he kicked me in my vagina. To this day, the doctors are still scared. I can't have kids because of what he did. He kicked me down there. He tore some tissues up and he did some other things. I remember waking up one day to him masturbating on me because I didn't want to do nothing. Hurt after hurt after hurt after hurt, trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. Abandonment, neglected. Walking in labels that people put on me. Broken identity. Being the special ed, I heard him talking about special education. Well, I can vouch, I was there. I was in the seat. Special education, because I had to play like I didn't know how to spell the. I had to play like I want to roll on the floor while everybody doing their work. I had to be a retarded person instead of being intelligent because of the label my father put on me. And because of the label he put on me when I was little, it traumatized me all up into my adulthood. And every relationship that I encounter, something always sparks it. It's either, oh, they don't like me. I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not book smart. One thing my dad did teach me, he taught me how to be, I have to be honest, Melvin. He taught me the streets. I'm not book smart, but I can tell you something about the streets. Did I ever want to be book smart? Absolutely. And I don't believe it's too late. It's never too late. Never, never, never. It's only listen, the only way it's too late is if you decide to stop. And so I had to keep telling myself, Ebony, you can do it. When nobody else is clapping for me, Ebony, you can do it. And so I found myself in a mental institution for 2 times. Because I was ready. I said, I don't want to be here no more. It was tiring. I was tired. I was tired. Everybody had their breaking point. Everybody had their breaking point. And mine was this, was that I'm tired of living out of what I allow people to put on me. I couldn't do nothing about my childhood. But when I hit that 18 mark and what I do with the rest of my life, it's up to me now. I'm not using it as an excuse, Melvin. I can't use it to say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. Every day is a fight for me. Every day is a fight, but I keep pushing. Every day is a fight for me, but I keep pushing. And I'm holding on. I'm holding on to some dreams. And another thing that I want to say, Melvin, before I end this, is that trauma, it will have you thinking that you'd have just, because of what you've been through, like you just not capable of doing nothing. Oh my God, trauma will handicap you. It'll handicap your mind. You'll be walking on crutches in your mind when you really can walk. You'll be in a wheelchair in your mind. This is good. You will be in the wheelchair in your mind, not knowing you have the right, you have the authority. Listen, and if you have the willpower, you can get up and do whatever you need to do. And I only can say that today, Melvin, although I know all of y'all, because y'all some therapists on here. I know y'all can hear some of my little pain up in there, but at the same time, I know that if I keep going, Melvin, I will make it to my mark. And one day I would love to be in your seat. My desire is I know I'll be an awesome therapist. I just have to get over some of the stuff that I'm still fighting. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm learning to take off the layers. I'm a work in progress. I have to keep saying that to myself every day. Ebony, you are a work in progress. You are so welcome, Marquita. You are so welcome. And I have to say it every day. And so I'm gonna end it with this, y'all. Y'all heard my trauma. But I have some success. Some. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that encouragement. Thank you all. Thank you, Rashonda. Thank you, James. I will say this is that me and my husband has actually had some health failures and he ended up losing his job and he was the only one working. Thank you so much, Aletha. Thank you so much. You guys are so encouraging on here. Listen, Melvin, you got an awesome tribe going. So me and my husband, we ended up losing everything. We ended up living in our car in Walmart's parking lot. And that's my husband down there that's saying, I'm so proud of you. So proud of you, baby. I love you, James. We ended up living in Walmart's parking lot. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thank you, Christy. We ended up living in Walmart's parking lot. We lived in the parking lot for 6 months. In that parking lot, you guys, I wrote my first book. Living in my car. And I said, God, how can I write a book to inspire people when I feel so broken? How can I write a book to push people to move past their trauma? And I still can hear the words of what my father said and what the other men have did and this and that. But I wrote it. I wrote my first book in 6 days. I published it in my car. Living in my car, I published the book. On that 7th day after publishing my book, I told my husband that I want to help women. I said, I just want to encourage them, to motivate them, to push them, to let them know, hey, there's more than what you're going through. There's more than your circumstances. There's more than your trauma. There's more than any words that's been spoken against your life. There's more. And I did it. I started a women's group on Facebook and called Empowering Women to Soar. In less than 30 days, I had over 23,000 women join my group. Over 23,000 women joined my group, and I was doing lives in there, and I was sharing some things that I had been through, and then I would just inspire them and just motivate them, and then some women just begin to come out and share some of their stories, Melvin, about how they was going through some of the same trauma that I had been through. And they was thanking me. And so I said, you guys, I sit in this seat today to say all of this. Although I've been through everything that I've been through, I know it has a purpose. I know it has a purpose. I have learned to give my pain a sound. I have learned to give my pain a name. I have learned to come off of mute. Trauma will mute you. I thank you all for listening to my story. This actually did something for me. I appreciate it, Melvin. I appreciate everything that you're doing for people, and thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much, Timothy. Thank you so much. You guys are so sweet. Thank you, Similo. Thank you so much. So listen, I hope that I inspired somebody today. I know y'all the therapists, y'all the therapists, but I hope I inspired somebody today. You guys just, you are so welcome. SW Alyssa Wolf. Listen, I can't pronounce all that, y'all. Now look.
Don't worry
Oh,
about it.
wow,
Um,
thank you, Lita.
E- so Ebony, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for sharing such a heartfelt story.
yeah,
But I even feel bad calling it a story because this is your life. It's not just
yes,
a story. Like
absolutely.
there's so much to that. And amongst your tears, I hear strength. I see
Yeah,
strength. I see power. The fact that your husband is on the line, I didn't even know he was going to join us today, but the fact that your husband is on the line is amazing. And and it's just touching. So thank you so much.
you're
Um, we
welcome.
I don't know how I feel about opening it up to questions.
Let's.
Um,
I would love to.
okay, 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 all right. Do anybody have any questions or anything that they want to share or say?
Can I go?
Go for it, Leon.
Hi, Ebony. I was the other guest speaker before you, and first of all, your story is powerful. As a seasoned therapist, I think it's good for you know aspiring therapists to sit there and hear your story because we are the takers to hear that story and weave it out and try to make some sense of it and try to help stabilize it into something that's more palatable to live life. One of the most powerful things that you said was coming off of mute. And from a therapeutic sense, what we say is that when you no longer hide the things that you've impacted, they
Yeah,
no longer become the stressors that can hold your life back.
yes.
So you might want to go on copyright coming off of mute or something like that. Um,
Listen.
you need to log off and go on copyright that. But since we have a room full of aspiring therapists, one of my questions is not necessarily about your trauma, but tell them your experience with your therapist. Was it good, bad? Did you have to go through a few of them? What was your growth process in working with your therapist?
Okay, I will have to say I did go through two. Through two. The first one, hmm, the first one,
Be
she
truthful. Give it
oh,
to us raw now.
okay. My thing is this: if you're not sympathetic, I'm praying. I hope that I'm using the right words.
They're your words.
Okay, listen. If you can't show, if I can tell when you're just sitting there for the money. If what I'm saying to you isn't how can I put it? How if what I'm saying to you and you're sitting there looking at me like I'm a wall, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not making sense because remember, she's speaking to that 2-year old that felt dumb. So daddy stared at me like, what you mean? You see what I'm saying? So if and so then I moved to Miss Samantha. And Miss Samantha, she had, oh my goodness, she was just sweet. She was down to earth. And she allowed me to just vent it all out like I just did with you guys. And then she would give me strategies. She would give me exercises. Okay, Ebony, when you begin to begin to hear your father's voice, I need you to take a deep breath and breathe in and breathe out. Do it at least 2 to 3 times, and that it would help. But you have some therapists that you can tell are just there for the dollar and really don't care about somebody's emotional trauma.
Yeah.
You know,
From our perspective, we talk about like your body presentation, eye contact, really understanding how to pull out those right words, but
yeah,
and also understanding like some therapists aren't that great.
yeah,
Some listen with the impact to hear. Listen, I was moved by your story. My questions were always going to be around like we're working with a bunch of aspiring therapists. So if there's any tips or things that you can give to people who aspire to work with people who are going to hear your stories, who are
mm-hmm,
going to hear another person who experienced a Ebony Nard situation that's so unfortunate, and
mm-hmm,
but to know that there's a growth point, there's some healing, as you
Absolutely.
sit here with your husband and you talk about the things that you've been through, a therapist played a role in helping that,
Absolutely.
and how to turn off what we would call that inner child,
Hmm.
how to mute that inner child and explain that that inner child no longer has a voice or a space in your life. So it's just powerful. But
Thank
anything you share, I think, from a therapist perspective would greatly help.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Ebony, do you have anything else that you would want to share with up and coming therapists or anything like that?
Yeah, I would just say this, you guys, is be more be not sensitive, but have compassion. Have compassion. Don't be too stern, because some people come from a real stern family to where some people just need love. Some people just need that listening ear without feeling like they're being judged. Show compassion, you know. Just I would just say overall, just show compassion. I have learned that I can't sit in everybody's chair. I can't sit in everybody's couch. Everybody can't, although they're certified, went to school for years, and some people just ain't built to even take on what you're going through.
Preach.
And the person that's sitting in the chair, we know you're not. We know you. I can tell you, because my first therapist that I had, she looked like she was cringing, you know. And I will just say this: it's more doing your business, going into the type of field that you're going into is more than just the dollar. You got to remember that you're going into it to help change lives. Yes, you're going to get benefits. Yes, all this and that. But make sure you're going in with compassion. Make sure you have a heart to really want to help somebody, you know? And that's what I just leave them with, Melvin. Just, be you, but also have compassion.
Yeah. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
You're a professional speaker. I don't know if you know that, but I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Well, come on. Well, come on, book me then.
You joking, but we gonna talk after this.
All right. Sounds good.
There we go. There we go. Making some connections.
Yeah.
Makita has her hand raised.
Okay.
Okay. Ebony, first I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable with us. Um, I'm gonna be completely honest. I was like in absolute tears. Not so much because of the story, but because of the strength
Wow.
that I saw within you.
Yes.
Because your story resonated so much, which is the reason which brought me to wanting to be a social worker.
Yeah.
So I agree with Leon. You have something. God has a complete and utter goal for you in your life, inspiring women,
Mm-hmm.
inspiring young men. I just had to say thank you, because you said something that I've heard before, but to hear it from a, a individual that has went through similar trauma, hearing you say not allowing the trauma to dictate your moves in your life, every step that you make, every decision that you make is so important.
Yeah.
And I am so happy to have heard your story. I plan on getting your book because I'm there too. I'm writing my own. I have to say how proud I am to see this strength, because I feel like I don't see it enough.
Yes.
So no, I just want to thank you so, so, so much for coming on here and just being so vulnerable with us and allowing us to see that there is a light of positivity at the
Yeah.
end of our journeys, at the
Yes.
end of the tunnels of the clients that we're going to work with in the
Yes.
future, and being able to really focus and hone in on that compassion.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Wow. You are so welcome, Marquita. Wow. Marquita. Wow.
Okay. Um,
I'm gonna just say post a link to the book.
yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
need 5 copies.
Right, right. I'm gonna get the link and I'm gonna share it with everybody. Ebony, any last words before you go?
I would just say this. Thank you. The responses, I'm overwhelmed. Man, my heart is full of joy right now. I was sitting in my office before I came out, and I said, listen, so y'all therapists on here are soon to be. I had to go take a poop. I said, listen, I was a little nervous about this, and I said, okay, a whole bunch of therapists is listening. But listen, I appreciate you guys. I thank you for welcoming me, Melvin, Marquita. Thank you so much for that. You truly just bless my heart. And you too, I can't think of his name, Mr. The seasoned therapist that's on here.
Leon.
Yeah, Mr. Leon, thank you so much. Melvin, thank you for even opening up this door and opportunity. I don't take it lightly. I thank you for everybody that said that, that you received everything that I said. And I'm excited for whatever is next. So thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebony.
Okay.
Okay, and so Ebony, I'm gonna follow up with you and James after this call. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
I know you want to stay on and read all these
I
comments
know.
and stuff, but
I'm still on the clock, and my boss is here. So,
yeah, you better get going. You better
all right.
get going.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for having me on. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so okay. All right.
Melvin, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Like, seriously, that was
Yeah.
intense,
Thank you.
but awesome.
I was holding back tears myself, and so I'm sitting here trying to like keep myself together. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all so much for the encouragement for her, for the attention that you gave her, and just being the therapist that I know that you can be. And so let's process that though, because again, as we've talked, a lot of the things that we talk about in this course can be triggering for us. So let's just process that just really quick, and we'll shoot whatever questions or Leon, I would love to even hear from you in terms of like what was shared and just your thoughts and whatever.
Well, the therapist in me goes when a mile a minute. And first of all, before you are a therapist, you are a human. I would ask you to go get yourself looked at if you that story did not emotionally impact you in some kind of way. As a seasoned therapist, I've heard stories like that and worse, and they impact us. They are those stories that sometimes it might just be a little difficult to leave it at the office. It might be a little difficult to just let that story go. So before you dive into anything, when you know you have moments like that, stop and process that. Stop and process, what was it like for you to hear that? What was it like to listen to such a tough story? And how do you stay in the moment even when listening to such a tough story? Because some of it is moved us to tears, but how do we process that as an individual first and as a therapist second? Now she dropped a lot of gems when she said that inner 5-year-old, 2-year-old in an adult body. And that's part of trauma. When we talked about getting stuck in stages and things like that, where you couldn't trust people, trust versus mistrust. It's a lot of nuances that you hear there that would allow you to process what that process with that client if that person was sitting in front of you. Oh, Melvin make a good point. That's where a good supervision comes into play. But even how she moved on through life, because physically she grew up, she got through school, she started relationships. You start hearing, I heard co-occurring things. Now we have the trauma and the mental health issues, but now we've added substances to it. So what came first, the cart or the horse? Did the substances or the trauma come first? Which one do you work with? Will the drug usage stop if you can fix the trauma? So those are some of the things that I would say think about. But be mindful of how you process, because that first therapist that she had was probably burned out, probably unable to hold space for a client. And not saying this therapist is a good or a bad person, but they maybe reached a point to maybe that's tough. Or maybe her story was so tough that therapist probably didn't know how to process it. And so that's why I say step into yourself first, because what if you've experienced something very similar to her story? How do you hold space without it being a trigger for you? So those are some of the things I think about.
Yeah. So Jake, at one point, I think I saw your hand up.
I knew you saw it. I knew even if I took it down, you'd still call on me. I knew it.
Yep.
I didn't get the chance to ask her because she was on a roll. But I was just curious if anybody else had a thought of maybe, do we think that she would have made the progress that she made with a male therapist? If she would have found that intimidating? The only reason I ask that is because I went through a real bad divorce and a real bad marriage. And I was, after my marriage, I was really, I guess my divorce, I was really torn back from talking to a female about what was going on, because I felt like the female was going to take her side. So she wouldn't look at it and understand it from my point of view. And I wanted to ask her, but I didn't get the opportunity to, because I was nervous about maybe opening a door that she wouldn't be able to close because she had to leave soon. But I just wanted to get yours or Leon's thoughts on that of do you think maybe she would have not made the progress that she made if she had been with a male therapist?
Yeah.
Melvin, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So I feel like it could have gone either way. Just depending on the therapist and her style. What I would say is the proof is in the pudding. She had a female therapist, and it's worked well. I'm not saying that a male therapist couldn't have done it. I think she had been taken advantage by men throughout her life, though. So that's what's sticking out to me. So she had been taking advantage of men throughout her life, and one of the greatest male figures in her life betrayed her, right? So I can see how that could continue to to play out even in a therapeutic relationship. The other side to that, though, is there a possibility that she could have mended that male relationship in therapy with a male therapist? I think there's a possibility that could have happened also. But I wouldn't have risked it. I would have, had she called in here to my practice, I probably, and if I would have heard a little bit about her story, I probably would have put her with a female. And if she would have made the decision to want to go to a male, then that's something different. But that's kind of my take on it. Leon, what do you think?
I take the risk simply because where we are, we don't have a lot of trained trauma therapists. So I actually end up getting a lot of rough cases. So for me, we ask before anything starts, hey, listen, I'm a male. do you feel like you'll be comfortable starting with the male? And they say, yes. So after my assessment, I say, look, I just want to check in with you. I want to see how you're feeling about processing the situation. Or do you have any discomfort? And I want you to understand that your discomfort has nothing to do with anything personal. This is your time. This is what you need to grow and develop. So I want you to be honest. And I've had some people come in and be like, you know, I thought it'd be good with the male. I don't think I can do it. And so then we'll find someone for him. Even throughout that therapeutic process, I'll do check-ins maybe every 2 to 3 sessions. I maybe had like 2 that were like, no, I don't think I can do it. But over the hundreds, maybe thousands I've worked with, they've kind of stayed in that space and said, no, this actually helps. This actually helps. It works. You know, you're professional about everything. And you know, you just make sure you understand that in that process, like sometimes I know women who work with clients, they might do like a hand holding while they're sharing. We don't do any of that. And so you know how to stay in those moments, and you just have to use your good therapeutic judgment in working with that person that's in front of you. I've actually found that men who I've worked with who've been abused sexually, they found a lot of trouble working with men because of their own ideas of what it could be for a masculinity perspective, or their fear of judgment from what that man may feel about another man being abused. That's where I found the more significant trouble, where they felt better. They felt better working with a woman, and I would make that referral.
Okay, then I have a follow-up question to that, Leon. Because I know that like females can be better at comforting people in situations like that. For some of the males in the class, like what are some skills that we can focus on as male therapists to better accommodate somebody that's going through a traumatic event, such as what Ebony went through?
Well, we have to dispel the myth that women can be more comforting than men, because when you get into that therapeutic setting, you're going to be using research skills and knowledge that you're using in that setting. And so a lot of it is you have to reflect on what things mean and feel for you, but you also have to do your own work to understand that you are a person that has emotional validation that sometimes the world might try to discount as men. So,
okay,
you know,
thank you.
those things.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Shawnee?
You got a few hands.
I just want to, okay, so I've had some other things happen. So I don't go to a female therapist on purpose. I think there's a lot to be said for attacking things like that head on. But that's my personal opinion. I chose to find somebody that was in trauma therapy on purpose, that was a therapist in trauma, and address it like that on purpose. But that's my strength. I attack things head on, and I wanted to have somebody that was male and address my stuff head on. Yeah. So that's a strength of mine. But I think it depends on the person, like you're saying, Leon. It's up to the person and where they're comfortable and where they're not comfortable, and that's how somebody's going to go about it. So it's a client-based thing. But like I said, if I found a therapist that was strong in trauma, and then I went from there and attacked my stuff head on. But I've always been like that. I attack things head on. But I think it's a client-based thing.
You make an excellent point, which and that therapist should know how to present things, knowing how, like, if you're going to establish like a comforting zone, if you know the person operates from, hey, look, call me on my shit. Don't sugarcoat it. You don't have to go. You don't have to build the piece by piece, slap it together, throw it on the oven, and give it back to me. So that's part of being like a seasoned therapist and knowing what you need. I am a very comforting male. And so a lot of times, because I work with kids, and so a lot of times when I work with adults, they're like, you're so comforting to the situations. But I primarily work with kids. So I'm on the floor, rolling around with them, stuff like that. So when it naturally, I just use that same method to work with adults. And some adults don't want that. You know, they want to give me my assignment, what I need to work on.
Well, it's not that I can't do both. I have a working school as well with kids, so I go back and forth. But
well, you have a preference.
Stuff, for my own stuff, I want it head on.
Yeah. Makita has her hand up.
Oh, hold on. Oh God, come back. Wait.
We still see you.
My computer just froze up on me.
We can hear
Uh,
you.
oh, you can hear me. Okay. Um, I no, I totally agree. Forgot her name, but I totally agree. It's like a client-based thing, and I appreciate the information that you shared because that's from a woman that's I have experienced a great deal of her story. And I think that's what brought me to tears is because I saw a lot of strength in her that I find that even my own personal therapist tell me, like, you are so wise. Like and you need to recognize the strengths that you already have within yourself. But for me personally, I believe that it was it was something that she said that stuck with me. And I always said in every conversation I have that when when trauma happens in a child's life, it's almost like their internal clock just sort of stops there. And as I'm going to take my story for a moment, as a 37-year-old woman, there are times where I still feel like I'm that 9-year-old girl where this trauma started. And I find it harder to engage with male therapists. So I personally have requested women.
Mhm.
Now that I have gotten older, I have been through years of therapy. Now a PTSD therapy is male. So I've kind of gotten to that point where I am mentally ready. But again, based off of what Jake said and the other female, I think it really truly just depends on
Mhm.
where that person is mentally,
Mhm.
cognitively, um, and that's an important thing to remember. And it was something that you stated earlier, and please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but um, I think it's really important to, even as an adult, remember that they are an adult, but come to them in the approach of the
Mhm.
age that they are
Mhm.
exhibiting, because you can't sit here and say, oh, well, I need you to do this and that as a male, and I'm 9 years old, because I'm
Mhm.
going to react a certain way to it. And I just think it just really depends on where that person is in that developmental stage. And please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm here to learn.
You're absolutely right. But again, the one thing that I always say, and the best thing that you can do is as a therapist is always get feedback. Because like you said, if you decided to take on a male therapist because they have the PTSD structure, a good therapist is going to be like, hey, look, this is a lot to process. How are you feeling? Are you in the moment? Everything is good for you? And understand that your discomfort is nothing professional. The goal in this relationship is your growth and development, and nothing else matters, because you want to always ensure the person that you're working with has that ability to grow, because you're in a moment where you're pulling back layers and you're literally trying to grow a flower through concrete, and you're trying to take that flower and get it to the right dirt so it can turn into what it needs to be. So it's always important that whatever you do when you're working with clients, ask for feedback. Have them, hey, listen, we just did this. Does this work for you? No, that didn't work. Okay, well, let's try some other things. And as a therapist, that's going to help you down the road, because I've had clients where we got to a point where I can no longer be that person for them. Like I don't have that skill set. And so then it might be time to transfer this to somebody else. Case in point, I'll work with a lot of people who've overcome tremendous strides in their childhood trauma. Well, now they're working on adult anxiety. They're working on areas of their marriage, and I'm like, I'm not the best person suited for that. So if we are good with the childhood trauma, let me give you to this a great adult therapist over here that can help you process the rest of life with and we might work in between or in conjunction with each other. It's all based on the needs of the person in front of you, and that's the only thing that matters.
Thank you. And I have one more question for you personally. And it was based off something you said earlier when you were speaking, but how, as a therapist, do you, and I'm sure we probably asked this question before, but I just want to reiterate it again, um, make sure that you stay present and in the moment? Because I feel like even if you had not endured the trauma, depending on a person's story, it can affect everyone differently. So how do you stay in the moment and make sure that
Yeah.
you don't begin to separate yourself from what's physically going on in front of you and start, I don't want to use the word dwelling because that's not the word I want to use, but making sure that you can physically take in all that information that's being said to you.
Yeah.
And am I making any sense right
Yeah.
now?
So you're saying, like, if you're hearing, you're talking about what we might call vicarious trauma. Basically, the trauma that somebody else is experiencing and saying to you is causing some traumatic symptoms within you. And so you want to know how you can maintain that. So that takes a lot of development. That takes a lot of strength as a therapist, and being able to sit there and hold that space. Now, I will tell people your body presentation makes a big difference. I've had therapists sit there like this, or they'll sit there like this, listening to a story when our body presentation, when we're folding our arms, I'm gonna move my camera down. Our body presentation like this tells us that we're closed off. So a lot of times I may lean forward, I may kind of give this and I'll give that nod in agreement, to keep sharing. I'll take some notes. I use an iPad, so I might write down something and I might say, hey, that's powerful. That's a deep space of vulnerability right there. I'll say, hey, that's powerful. There's a deep space of vulnerability. That's an open point. And so I may interject and say, you just dropped something that's really powerful. And I think us talking about and sitting in that moment is going to be the best thing for us right now. What do you think? Especially when they hit a point if they say something that they've hit that they probably processed unconsciously. Like whenever I work with adults who've experienced childhood trauma and they'll start talking about their trauma and they kind of glance over a point and I'm like, okay, you said this about what happened to you when you was 5 years old, but I want to explore that. I want to make sure that we can, dive deeper right there because that might be the area where this trauma has taken a place, have been the hardest. And oftentimes if you get it right, which you're not going to be right every time, you're going to dive into a deeper perspective of their trauma and they're going to come back and say, wow. So you're staying in that moment and you're actively listening to that story and you're picking out those points that gives more mental clarity, because we know that trauma shocks the brain and part of our brain tries to shut some of the things that we hear down. And so unconsciously we start processing it and we're healing through that trauma. And so we've moved some things from that unconscious to now conscious memory. So we need to know what to do with that.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. I think we're going to give it back to Melvin, huh?
Yeah. So much to process. So much to process. I'm actually communicating with Ebony right now, and she's going to I'm going to send you guys her email and her contact information, and then you can communicate with her if you're interested in purchasing her book. They are out in Amazon, but she has some in stock herself. So so I'm going to do that. The other thing is, I just want to, we're going to get off here in just a quick second, but I want to check in with everybody. Are we okay? How we doing? We doing all right? Okay. All right. And I'm going to hang out after class for a moment if anybody needs to talk with me, or if you need a moment, or feel free to text me and say, hey, can we talk later on this afternoon or something like that if you need a moment to just kind of process some of the stuff that we talked about in class today. Leon, I appreciate you, sir.
Thank y'all for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. It meant the world. So any last comments to Mr. Winters at all before he takes off?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's nice, it's refreshing to see that they have true, sincere, and genuine therapists in the state of Louisiana. Because I grew up in the foster system down there and I felt as if the therapists were whack. So it's really nice to see that you have not just true, genuine therapists, but a therapist that know exactly what he's doing. Because I learned a lot from Mr. Leon today. So thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me. I love to do these things. And the backstory Melvin is not going to share is he's a professor, and I'm working on my PhD, and I'll be a professor probably soon after graduation. So these things are time for me to learn just as much as I'm coming in and sharing with you guys, because most of my time has been spent in the field of practice. And so now as I move into the field of teaching and things like that, this is kind of my way of growing and developing. So we're all growing and developing.
100%. Real quick, Mr. Winters, what do you do for self-care?
Why do you ask that question?
Because I just need to see how right I am about something. Just
Man, you already know. Anytime we talk, what am I doing? When I
tell
leave the office, where I go?
Where you tell me, you tell the
To the
class.
golf course.
Okay, all right. I need my $100, everybody.
Why? What kind of side bet you taking with your students?
Hey, listen, what I do with my students is my business, okay?
Hey, you're right. You're right.
He abuses us. He's rough on us.
Listen, I mean, I honestly, I hear a lot of Ebony stories. I am a trauma therapist. I hear a lot. And I'll look, me and Melvin and I'll text and call each other, and he'll be like, where you going? You already know I'm going to the golf course. I'm going to be at peace with everything around me. And I will play a quick 9 or 18 holes before I pick up the kids and the wife. And that way I don't bring, what I hear at the office home. So.
Absolutely.
And if y'all give them $100, use Monopoly money.
Wow. You messing with my bread right now. Okay.
All right, y'all. Well, all right. I'm going to take off. See y'all later. Thank y'all again.
Thanks a lot, Leon. Everybody hold tight just one quick second. Okay. So next week, there are some videos that you are to watch. Some of you have already started watching them. I might add a video or two. 2 of the videos that I originally had on there, the links are broken. And so I might add another video or 2 before Monday. So just look out for those videos, and they'll be really short. And one of them might even be like a really quick TikTok that somebody created, but it's a doozy, even though it's only 30 seconds. Okay. So look out for that. What I tell everybody during that particular week is that, again, it's more heavy stuff. It's more heavy, people experiencing some traumatic things. If you need to process that stuff, reach out to me. If you don't want to reach out to me, but you need to process some stuff, if you have your own therapist or anybody else that you could talk to, please make sure you do that. Yeah, so that's all I got. Anything for me before we go?
Yes, I put it in the chat. For those videos, when is our response to the discussion board for those videos due? Because it was just a question that me and one of the classmates had earlier, and I said Wednesday, but I was not sure, so I want to verify with you.
Great question. Yeah. So you need to watch the videos. Your response to the videos are due by Wednesday, and then a response. I think I had a response in there to your classmates, and if that is the case, then just make sure you have those in by like Saturday night or something like that. There's a possibility I may have said don't respond to your classmates concerning this. I can't remember if I did or not, but it should be in there.
We're supposed to respond. I just looked.
Okay. Other questions, other thoughts? Okay, I'm gonna hang around until the last person leaves this Zoom. Have a good weekend.
Hey, Melvin, I'm going to ask a question when they sign off.
I just wanted to give a quick friendly reminder. I can always send you another email, but I just won't be here for the next Saturday class for the